It's not just the story that counts. It's the people and the story behind the story. When it comes to today's most talked about issues, no one gets behind a story like Primeau.
Let's start with a very blunt yet true statement.
This is the Leslie Primeau Show on 630 CHED.
Okay, so a few weeks ago, I was doing something. Who knows what I was doing? I was doing something talking about guns came up. Boy, and let me tell you, on Friday they're going to come up again because I'm seriously miffed at the Conservatives for proroguing the House, and now the crime bill has dropped. But anyway, I digress. So I was talking about guns, and then I got a letter from a family that said, well, you don't know what the hell you're talking about. Virtually is what they said. And they said, you should look up this woman, Suzanna Hupp, and you should look at this story. And I was like, who? I did not know her name, but I kind of vaguely remembered the story, but only vaguely, because I had to go look it all up, too. And then I thought to myself, that would be a very interesting guest. So I tracked down Suzanna Hupp, and that wasn't as easy as I thought it might be, but not as difficult as you might have hoped. And so now, after talking with her, and she's about to join us, I was like, I wonder if this would make me change my view on gun control in Canada. Because, I'm opposed. I'm opposed to people having guns. I don't know that I would ever relish the time when you could walk down a street in my city and carry a gun. I don't know. They do it in the United States, and you think about it. And one of my reasons always for gun control was that in the United States, there was a stat that said a child a day dies by gun, not in the commission of a crime. And for that was one child too many for me. I was like, oh my God, could you imagine? So you have a gun because you have the right to carry a gun in Alberta, and your child gets killed because you foolishly leave a gun out, or you, right? That was always my concern. I have a very serious concern for that. And frankly, I'm not sure that I think some of the nuts I know should get to carry a gun. So these are all the issues that will come up. Suzanna Hupp joins us, and she's had quite a life. And
that's a lovely way of putting it. I like that.
Yeah, she's had quite a life. And she's a remarkable speaker. And I'm trying to decide, Suzanna, if I think that you would have had this life had there not been this tragedy.
Oh, you got to figure things happen for a reason.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you go crazy. I am a firm believer in that.
Now, did you carry a gun, before we get to the story of 1991, did you carry a gun prior to that? Were you a gun person?
No. That's. I wish that were a little easier question. You think I could answer that with a simple yes or no? And let me tell you this, Leslie. I am right up your alley in terms of I'm not a gun person. And I know that might shock a lot of people, but I'm truly not a gun person. I did not grow up in a house with guns. I'm not a hunter. Nobody in my family is really a hunter. But it seems like every place I go, people assume that I'm an expert on every kind of gun there is. I did grow up in a house where we were firm believers in the Constitution and particularly in our Bill of Rights. Mm-hmm. And I did understand the historic significance of a populace being armed as the best protection possible against its government from potentially becoming tyrannical. Now, I know that sounds, very, very black helicopter-ish, but it does happen. So I understood what the Second Amendment was about. I was given a gun when I got older by a couple of friends, a veterinarian friend of mine. I was taught how to use it. Kept it in my apartment when I moved out on my own. As a single woman, 19, out in an apartment. I became a chiropractor, and it was actually one of my patients was an assistant district attorney in the city of Houston, which is, very high crime.
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay.
He convinced me to carry, which at that time was illegal in the state of Texas. He convinced me to carry illegally. This is a prosecutor. He said, Susanna, let me tell you, I see this stuff. You didn't grow up in a crime area. You didn't, but I see this stuff. It happens all the time, and you need to protect yourself. So that was kind of a long answer to your question.
What kind of a gun?
Carry?
What were you carrying?
At the time, I carried a Smith & Wesson Airweight, which is a very simple point and shoot. I like my guns like I like my cameras, point and shoot. Easy to carry, but again, at that time in Texas, it was illegal. You could carry one in your car, but you technically could not carry on your person.
Okay, so you just couldn't carry it on your person? If you had the 6 shooters at the side, like we always think the cowboys have, could you have carried it?
No. And it's funny because at the time, back in 1991, when that dreadful event happened to me, actually Texas had more restrictive gun laws in terms of carrying than New York, which surprises a lot of people because, you think Texas, well, it's a gun-toting kind of state, but no, we couldn't carry. You could carry in your vehicle. If you were traveling, they did have some parameters on it, but they were fairly loose.
So tell us,
in your vehicle, but not on your person.
So what happened in 1991?
I was working on some patients, and my parents came by and asked me to lunch with them, and we went to a local cafeteria. Bright, beautiful, sunny day, middle of a crowded cafeteria. In other words, no place that you would ever think something bad would happen. Because remember, I don't know how old your listeners are, but back in 1991, these mass shootings were not happening. So we went to the cafeteria. We ate lunch. I left my gun in the car because I had begun to become concerned about losing my license to practice. And I did what most normal people would do. You figure, gosh, if I need it, it's going to be out on some dark road somewhere if I break down. So my gun was out in my car. We'd finished eating when a madman crashed his truck through a floor-to-ceiling window in the restaurant and then very methodically began executing people. The fact that carrying a gun was illegal didn't matter to him, When all was said and done, he had murdered 23 people, including my parents, and then turned the gun on himself. The police, bless their hearts, a number of them were actually patients of mine. They were in the building next door. They can only do so much, but even they will tell you that when push comes to shove, most of the time they're just a cleanup crew. So I was really angry because not just myself, but a number of other people that were in that restaurant that day had their guns dutifully held out in their cars, 100 yards away, completely useless to them. And Leslie, I cannot begin to tell you how incredibly frustrating it is to be stuck and just have no way of fighting back and just wait for it to be your turn. I get really angry thinking about that even now.
Susanna, what kind of a gun did this guy have?
He had, if I remember correctly, a couple of 9mm. He had 2 handguns with him.
And and I'm just curious, but was there anything after the fact that suggested why he had gone so crazy?
Oh, there were different stories going around. I can tell you that it turned out that a lawyer that I did a lot of work with knew this guy's parents very, very well, had known him for years, and he said, they were decent people. His father was a surgeon. He grew up in a fairly well-to-do. He, didn't have any real history of any major problems. Some people sometimes just go nuts.
It's just what happened, right?
I beg your pardon?
It's just what happened on that day.
Yeah, and the truth is, I don't know, and I don't care. I don't want to come in and try to armchair quarterback about why somebody did this and could we have prevented this. Maybe this particular incident could have been prevented. But the fact is, this crap happens, and it's been happening more and more frequently, and it only happens where guns aren't allowed, Leslie. Because freaks like this they're not criminals. They are people who go nuts and they're angry and they want to have a high body bag count. So where do they go? They don't go to, if guns are the problem, why don't we see these mass shootings at NRA conventions or skeet and track shoots or gun shows? We don't. we always see them where guns aren't allowed because these people want to get a high body bag count.
Now, aren't there people, Susanna, who would argue with you, well, if guns had not been allowed, maybe he wouldn't have had a gun?
You know, and with all due respect, it's almost difficult for me to make a good argument against that because it's so absurd.
Because bad guys always get a gun, right? You can always find a gun.
Yes, of course. Even if you eliminated every gun on the face of the earth in some magical way, the technology still exists. Now, getting beyond that, so in other words, somebody could always build a gun, but getting beyond the idea that notion that, gosh, well, let's just magically wave a magic wand and make all guns disappear. I wouldn't want them to because they truly are the great equalizer. You know, you read these terrible accounts of, well, let's put it on a more